Donut Dodo is a game which is perfect on the Atari VCS. If I didn't know it was a modern game, I would assume that it really was a game back from the early 1980s that somehow I hadn't heard of. And that is exactly how they describe it when they give the information for the game. They say, if a long-lost arcade game from 1983 resurfaced today, it would be Donut Dodo. And I completely agree with that. Now, the game is a platformer which is heavily influenced by the likes of Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., Pac-Man, Burger Time. You can see the influences all over it. In the game, you play as Billy Burns, who is a red-headed, bearded chef, who, if you're a WWE fan, kind of looks like Sami Zayn. And you go across 5 stages over and over again to try to rack up the best high score that you can, very much like you do in those old games. The stages see you jumping, climbing up and down ladders and ropes and shimmying across wires as you try to collect a bunch of donuts that are scattered across the stage. Once you've picked them all up, you can then pick up the giant donut, which is guarded by the evil and sinister Donut Dodo. Of course, there are obstacles to get in your way so that you can't easily pick up all the donuts, and with a nod to Pac-Man, the 3 main enemies are Sniffy, Stinky and Winky. Sniffy is a mouse, Stinky is a toilet which is too big for you to jump over, so in a sense is one of the toughest enemies on the game, and Winky is literally a yellow Pac-Man ghost. To be honest, I'm not quite sure how they got away with such an obvious clone of that Pac-Man ghost. When you first start playing, I think the game is actually a tad too hard. If this were an arcade game back in the day, next to Donkey Kong for example, I think I'd be put off with its difficulty just to get used to the controls. Stinky will chase you across the stage, so you don't have that much time to figure out how you have to avoid him before you have to go on the run. Once I'd had a little go and I realised that you couldn't jump over him, the main thing to get used to is that when you press to climb something, the climb goes on autopilot and races you up and down the ladders, so only climb when it is clear to do so. Otherwise you're just going to climb up and instantly get hit by something. The variety of the 5 stages are quite good, in the same way that Donkey Kong has distinct levels that don't all feel like the exact same thing over and over again. Although, as you play the game, there are only 5 stages, so you end up doing it over and over again, but because you feel like it's something that you've completed and now racing through a second or third time, for some reason that type of repetition, it feels okay. It's a simple game which is very fitting for the Atari VCS, which has mostly indie games in addition to the several Atari collections. This looks like an old game but somehow feels modern, even though the animation and character design feel a bit more in a modern style with fluid and bouncy animation. It's nice that they added a combo system to the scoring, so that if you collect the donuts in a certain order, you'll soon score loads more and get extra lives, which is definitely needed in this surprisingly challenging game. Basically, whichever donut is flashing will give you more points and will continue the combo. So once you're into the gameplay, you should try to get the high score and as many lives as you can, just so you can go through the game as many times as possible before the Donut Dodo gets too difficult. So in conclusion, this is definitely a game I would say for those who like to rack up high scores, and for others it's still just a fun game to dip into here or there for short bursts. It's definitely a welcome addition on the Atari VCS, and I believe you can also get it on the Switch and maybe some other platforms. So that's going to wrap things up for this short review of Donut Dodo for the Atari VCS. If you haven't done so already, please smash that subscribe button on www.youtube.com/@GeekBattleGaming. Help us to grow the channel and spread the word, and do check out all of the other videos. We've got a bunch of retro stuff, or modern retro stuff as I like to call it, for the Atari VCS, the Evercade. We're going to be having some Playdate stuff coming up fairly soon, and just check it out. And until next time, ciao for now.